Now, Sarah Stevens brings her photo exhibition to the model this month. Derelict Nation is on display as part of a new exhibition space currently being introduced at the model. The exhibition is part of an ongoing project which documents and draws attention to derelict spaces, and Sarah Stevens joins me on the line now. Good evening, Sarah.
Hi there, how are you doing?
Good, thanks for talking to us on Arts House tonight. Sarah, can you explain to us a little bit about the new exhibition space in the model, first of all?
I can, yeah. The model gave studio artists this exhibition space this June, and we have the space until next May, and hopefully we'll continue to have the space. So what we have organised is actually an artist-led space, so we run the shows ourselves. So we have an ongoing rotation of different studio artists showing there. So I'm showing this month from the 17th to the 28th of August. Before I showed, Sue Morris did her show. We had a group show before that. In September, we have John Cullen. In October, we have Clea Vandergrin. And November, we have Steve Wickham, who is a sound artist. And in December, we'll have a Christmas show. So we'll go on into the new year showing different artists as well. And they'll include John Gunning, Michael Wan, Anne Conlon and Mamie Lambert.
So Sarah, what kind of artists have been on display there so far? Are they all along the same kind of criteria, or are they artists from different regions altogether?
Well, they'd be, the artists would be very different because the space is given to studio artists. It wouldn't be open to anybody else. It is just for studio artists, so each artist is quite different. So the work that was just there before would have been Sue Morris, World of Wonder, and that would have been a drawing project and installation project. And the show after me is John Cullen, which will be painting. So there'd be a huge variety of different artists. Where my show is going to be primarily photographs. Okay. So there'll be a huge range of work.
So Sarah,
really. So each artist is different. So they have different practice and they work with different mediums.
Okay, Sarah, so we mentioned at the introduction there that your piece is going to be called Derelict Nation. Explain to us what exactly it is.
Okay, so Derelict Nation is an ongoing art project, and it documents buildings and places in decline around Ireland. And these places are forgotten and overlooked, so it's my intention to draw attention to them and record their hidden histories, because these places are falling apart. Well, they're not just falling apart, they're being vandalised, and ransacked for whatever's in them. And they are time capsules as well. Quite a lot of these places will be quite old, so... And new places, increasingly, new builds that have never been lived in. So I would be taking photographs. I've been doing that since 2007, so I actually would have started this before the recession. But I've noticed since the recession there's an awful lot more derelict spaces. So it's not just houses, it's shops. I mean, it's whole housing estates really as well. And I would go into the places. The places that are normally vandalised before I go in, you can actually walk in off the street, and I generally photograph interiors.
So what areas around Ireland do you work in? Is it mainly around Sligo, or where have you carried out some of your work already? Well,
the aim of Derelict Nation is to go around the whole country, but at the moment I've photographed Sligo extensively. So a very interesting place in Sligo, for derelict places at the moment would be Ballasadair, and because there's a ghost estate there where there's a few people living in it, and there's the Avena developments, the apartments, which I would have photographed extensively as well, and that's a lot of people would know about this place. So alongside the exhibition is. The project is ongoing, but the exhibition is just to show some work. The project's quite extensive, so I also have a blog as well, and you can get to that. It's www.derelictisland.blogspot.com, and I show different, I have different posts each week of different places that I photograph.
Where else have you photographed apart from outside of Sligo? Where else have you gone that's particularly interesting for you?
Outside of Sligo, I photographed around Roscommon, Mayo, Donegal, so kind of around the northwest mainly. But I suppose most recently there's a hotel in Achill called the Amethyst Hotel, and it's actually due to be knocked down this year because someone has planning permission to build apartments and a hotel and things like that there. But it's actually very interesting inside because everything is in there still. There's old menus from the 90s and all the cutlery. John Lennon stayed there, and Paul Henry, the artist, lived there back in 1910. So it's actually a really, really old building. And you can just walk through the back door, and it's actually opposite this cafe. And, you know, people don't tend to notice derelict buildings. Like, they'll be going about their business and they don't actually see them there. So it's quite strange when you're inside them because you look out and people just don't see you in the window or anything. But that place is quite amazing. There's just everything in there. It's kind of like this Marie Celeste type quality when places are emptied out, because the things tend to stay. And they just stay, they get vandalised, but everything stays there. So it's kind of like being in a time warp because you go back into another decade. And, you know, so it's like an Irish hotel from back in the 90s and before that. So that would be a very interesting place. There's also a church, a huge big cathedral church in Roscommon somewhere, which is empty as well and vandalised. So sometimes you get really, really amazing buildings, and you know, this is a dreadful waste, but sometimes it could just be a roadside cottage and it doesn't look like much, but you go inside and it's just, you know, everything's there, and it's like a museum to the past, you know, how people used to live. It just seems a shame that they get smashed up and all the things get thrown out.
So how did you come up with the idea for the exhibition? Why did this in particular interest you, Sarah?
Well, I have been photographing these places for, you know, quite a few years, since 2007, and I think the first place would have been found by accident. We just went out taking pictures, and we went round the back of a house and got in, and we just couldn't believe everything was still in there, and it makes you kind of question, where have the people gone? And it's such a common occurrence. There's so many abandoned buildings all over the place, and what's really unnerving is everything is left in them. So I suppose for me, what became interesting was there's this kind of feeling of loss when you go inside places, even if it's a new place and it's never been lived in. There's still a big feeling of loss because you think this could have been someone's home, it could have been someone's life here, and it's just not going to happen. So it's kind of, you know, I'd be very interested in themes of loss and decay, but also, you know, I suppose my role as an artist is, you know, I like to be socially responsive, so I'm very interested in just looking around and seeing things that, you know, people don't notice. So because I noticed these buildings and, you know, other people didn't, I started showing the pictures to friends, and they said, this is really interesting. So, you know, I see myself as kind of, you know, my practice is, you know, a mirror, and I'm reflecting the world back to people, but I might be showing them things that they haven't noticed. You know, walking past buildings and not realising that there's a TV in there, there's family photographs, statues of the Virgin Mary. They might think the place is empty, but it's not. And also, I think what's important as well is, you know, I think the project is, you know, important because it makes you think about your mortality, because you see items of things, you know, things that people have saved up for years. Like one house, I found this box of milk tokens. You know, this man must have collected them for years, and he was saving up for something, and then he must have died. I mean, this is what you would really think in a lot of places, that actually people have died and their things are, you know, still there. But nobody wanted the milk tokens. I mean, they'd be no use to anyone. So, you know, it's, you know,
sad in one way.
Sorry?
Sad almost in some ways.
It's very sad, yeah, and it makes you question what you value, because I think people just really, you know, like we're really into materialism. We don't realise it's part of our culture, but you can't take it with you, and it just really shows that you can't take it with you, and you assume someone will look after your things when you go. But, you know, in some places I've seen the toothbrush is still left in the jar, and that's been there for about 10 years. But I suppose, why would someone put your toothbrush away if there's no other family around? So I think it's like derelict spaces are a consequence of a kind of throwaway culture, and it's just very strange at the moment with the recession because no one's got money. And then, I've been into a few Nama houses, and there's like these amazing granite worktops that are just left there, and then like these mad features, like, really interesting stuff, kind of, like beautiful woodwork smashed apart. And I'm like, this is where the money is. It's sitting getting vandalised in an armour house.
So you've quite a large display anyway of your work.
Yes, yeah.
And
well, it's not everything. I mean, the blog really is a place people can keep returning to, and I put stuff up on the blog the whole time because I'm still photographing, and I've a huge backlog. I've lots of work to put up, but I mean it's expensive to print everything. You can't print everything up, so I've just put up my favourite photographs for this.
Well, Sarah, it sounds like a very interesting exhibition. It's very different to some of the exhibitions that we've had on here before, and sounds very interesting, and one which a lot of people, I think, would be intrigued to go to see. Thanks very much for speaking to us on Arts House this evening.
Thanks very much.